Welcome. Welcome, Suzy. I'm excited to talk to you today. On Fridays, I have this little thing that I'm calling the Healer's Transformation, which is an opportunity for us to talk to people in our transpersonal energy healing hangout about what they do. And I think very much more interestingly, how they got here. Like, what was their personal transformation that brought them to the work that they're so passionate about doing right now? And I've had the joy of chatting with Suzy and seeing how passionate she is about the work that she does in the world. She's, excuse me, Suzy is an entrepreneur coach, and she has specialized in working with women that were in the medical field and they're transitioning into working in their own business or their own practice. So I'd love for Suzy to tell us a little bit more about what she does first, and then we're going to hear her story of transformation that brought her here.
Thanks so much, Kimberly, for having me. It's been a while since I've been on live, so I'm like, we're live.
Live, I know.
People can see us. I have a podcast too, so I'm used to being behind the microphone, so this is different. So what I do now is I do business planning, which is what my coaching practice is. And it basically working with women that are coming out of the medical field or wanting to start a business and they don't know where to start. They have all of this experience. They are leaving because of certain circumstances that either they get burnt out, they're having a hard time, they may have had some trauma, which is my story, and I'll share that, that's happened to them and they need to shift. So that is what I do. I help them figure out exactly what their service is going to be, how they're going to price it, what kind of clients they want to work with, everything for the back end of their business, all the way through finance. What is their financial plan, goal setting, all the things in between. I have a background as a medic in the Army, and then I also did veterinary medicine. My degree is in business. I did that after the Army, and I just love processes and organizing. And so I took what I already knew and I paired it up with my experience in medicine and my transition to starting my business, because I work specifically with women in this circumstance. And it took me a lot of trial and error to get where I am today.
Yeah, boy, it took me a lot of trial and error too. I wish I would have known you when I was starting my practice way back in the day, because it takes a lot. You study something new and you have this dream of starting a business, and there's so many steps. Like, you become an expert in what you do, and then you also have to figure out how to run a business and be an entrepreneur. So to have somebody support you and guide you through that process, I think is so invaluable.
Yeah. And that was my story. I had a business degree and I didn't follow my own advice. I tried other businesses. I tried one with my husband and that didn't work. I didn't write a plan. In all of them, the same common thread was I didn't have a plan. And so that's how my business actually came to be, was that I was like, what's missing in this scenario? And I talked to other coaches, I talked to other entrepreneurs, and I was realizing a lot of them didn't have a plan either. And I thought, I can do that. That's something that's really strong for me. And I love doing it. So so I'm like, last year, it's been a year, it'll be a year this month that I started my business, and it's been amazing.
Wonderful. So tell me the backstory though, of, because I know we chatted a little bit offline, and I heard a little bit of your story that, kind of took you to this place where you're now able to help these other people that kind of went through some of what you went through. So tell me a little more about your story.
Yeah. So to go off of the healing, because I was thinking about it today before we came on live. I'm able to share my story now, where before it would have been really tough for me to share the process that I went through for healing. As I said, I was a medic in the Army, spent a year in Iraq, deployed, working with an engineering company. And our whole job in the whole time we were there for a year was looking for roadside bombs. So me being the first responder, I'm only going to let you guys imagine what things happen. And for those of you that come from medicine, I know you get it. And especially those in emergency room and that type. So I came back home and I had some physical ailments. My neck had issues where I was having a really hard time turning my head, and I didn't realize that just being there and the rough roads that we were on and all of the wear and tear that goes on your body had affected me to where I was having a hard time physically. And then I realized when I got home, I actually had PTSD. And that took me a really long time to actually own up to. And I think that's because as caregivers, we stuff everything down and we're like, I need to be strong because the person I'm taking care of needs me more than I need myself. And that was kind of what I was doing. I was just harboring everything. And I had insomnia. I had depression. I had anxiety. I was really nervous in big places with lots of people. And what I did, I just went, what did I do before the Army? Well, I worked in corporate, and literally the business that I worked with before I joined the Army, they had the same position open 5 years after I'd been in the Army. And I ended up going back to the same firm and doing the same job and pretending I never was in the Army, like literally stuffed that completely down. And I think it was manifesting in my body. It was like I was getting sicker. I didn't feel good. I didn't have energy. The VA was giving me way too many medications that I didn't need, that I didn't know I didn't need. I still wasn't sleeping, even though they were giving me all these medications to help me sleep. And so at that point, I was like, I can't pretend anymore. And so I thought, what can I do that my giver spirit wants to do? And I thought, I love animals and I understand medicine. Let me go into the veterinary world, because then I can be around these animals and I can be energized and I can still do what I love, which is care for people and their pets. So I went to school and I became a veterinary technician. And again, I didn't recognize, or like I was still avoiding. Suzy, you have PTSD, you have issues happening. You're still not sleeping, but now you're blaming it on working 10 to 12-hour shifts. You're still having trouble physically, and you're blaming it on working, a very physical job. I was like, blame, blame, blame. Like, I'm just going to look over here like it's not happening. And when I finally came to terms with it, I knew I had to leave, because I was like, I have to be able to control my environment in order to heal. I couldn't heal while I was running around helping everybody else and putting in, all of the hours and all of the energy outside. I had to put energy inside. And so I thought, what can I do that I can do from home? And again, I tried to marry my thoughts. I was like, I'm good with business and I'm good with health. Ooh, I can be a health coach. So I went to school and got certified as a health coach. And I was like, yes, I can totally do this. But I wasn't passionate about it. So I was like, oh no, where do I go from here? And I realized through that whole process, again, I didn't have a plan. When I decided to start my health coaching business, I was just like, oh, here I am. I'm on the internet. I'm a coach. I realized I wasn't healed. And I completely quit doing everything in my business. I was like, nope, I'm not doing this. And I just shut it all down. And I took that time to really look inside, and through meditation, I did some hypnosis meditation, completely reversed my insomnia and got rid of every medication I was ever taking. I got off of all my antidepressants. I was able, literally, I take nothing. Barely do I ever take like an anti-inflammatory if I have to, but I had a handful of pills I was taking every day that was given to me. And just by removing myself from the environment long enough, and I did therapy. So I did that as well. I did some mental health therapy. So I had a therapist that I worked with every week for a year. Like, it was really, really intense. But as I was doing that, I was realizing that when I take a pause, I can heal myself instead of like just masking the symptoms and like, oh, I can't sleep, so I'm going to take another pill. And literally, I mean, I was sick in January and I was having a hard time sleeping. And I'm like, well, I'll just take this prescription that I've had forever that I don't take anymore. I'm like, it helps. And I literally, my body got sick from it. And I was like, I can't. Let me put my meditation back on. And I started doing that again. And again, went right back to sleep and I was good. So that powerful healing process, and it made me open to want to start my business again, but with a clearer vision. And so it really brought me to the place of, business planning is needed. And I came from a place where I had to heal, and I came from a really traumatic experience. And over the course of years, because this was across a span of probably 10 or 12 years that this whole story unfolded. So it was a really long time. I was on medications for my sleep for over 6 years. And they just kept upping my meds when I would be like, I'm still not sleeping. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just increase your dosage, and so it was like crazy. Now that I look back on it, I'm like, oh man, we need to work on how do we do this better? And what I found working with women in the medical industry is they're frustrated with the system also.
Right.
And patients aren't getting the care that they need. We're not holistically looking at people and saying, what are you doing with your nutrition? What are you doing with your sleep? How are you managing these things that you're having symptoms for? How can we heal a different way?
And what's the unresolved trauma that might be at the root of these symptoms? That's causing these patterns of behavior, perhaps, that are causing the symptoms, right?
Yeah. And that was something I struggled with even starting my business, because that stuff comes up when you start putting yourself out there. It's like, oh, I'm actually scared. What am I scared of? Why am I scared? Okay, that might be something that's manifesting in another way that I'm not realizing. Yeah, that's a big, big thing.
And I love how you said, if you take a pause, right? Slow down, stop, pay attention, really look inside, you can heal yourself, right? The healing can happen if we slow down and look at what's under there, right? What are the symptoms telling us, right? What are these symptoms are our ally, perhaps. Maybe the symptoms are helping us to have a better understanding, and it's an opportunity for information.
What I learned from doing that is that when you look, I would look out first, I was looking outside. Okay, so I had triggers when I'd go to work. So if I was in surgery in the vet clinic one day and a smell would happen, and it like put me back into Iraq. So I was like, ooh, and I'd freeze, and it was a mess. So in my mind, I was like, my problem is external. I'm getting external things that are causing me to not be able to heal, which yes and no. I mean, I agree that was, it was causing symptoms, but I wasn't doing the inner work. So I wasn't able to handle. So like having this conversation with you right now, if I would have had it with you 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to talk. Like I would just be, it would put me back. I would get those feelings and heart racing and stress. But because I did the healing work, now I can help other people because I'm good. Where before I was a mess.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what trauma does, right? It keeps us stuck in the past experience instead of being present in the moment. So if we haven't resolved the traumatic experience, something that reminds us of it brings us right back there, right? So even the smell can bring you right back, and your nervous system is acting like it's still happening to you, right? It's amazing.
Yeah. And I like to use that analogy with positive enforcement with people too, is have a trigger that's positive. So instead of, I like to use this example of a perfume that I had just bought a new smelling perfume when I met my husband. And it was before I met him, but it was right around the same time. And now if I smell that smell, I'm like, it's like, oh, we're on the date again. It's like, it triggers positive. So it doesn't always have to be a negative thing. It's just figuring out what those things are to help remind you of those positive experiences that we've been through as well.
Wow, it's an amazing journey that you've been on yourself over the past how many years that brought you now to this place where you get to help other people do what you've done.
I know. I was thinking about it, and I joined the Army in 2002. So it's been a really long journey. And what I want to share with people is that no matter how long it is, it's never too late.
Right. You have an incredible capacity to heal at any stage in the game.
Yes. And I think that's a powerful thing to share with people, because a lot of times we think, well, I'm too old, or it's been too long. I've been in this cycle for so long that I'm never going to be able to get out of it. And it's just not true.
Yeah, it's just not true. You have the capacity to heal. And that's what a lot of people in our hangout here in the Transpersonal Energy Healing Hangout have that understanding. And they're trying to help people to know that, help people ignite their own inner healer. But often, sometimes the problem is not in our ability to do that with our clients, but our ability to have clients and manage a business so that we can help our clients. So that's where you would come in.
Yes, yes. And that's where my joy and my energy came from, is realizing that I can help people that want to start a business that's going to help people. So we're in this whole network of all these people that want to help, but let's build the path of how to get there. So I'm kind of like the how. So when someone says, I want to share my experience and ability to show people how to heal, how do I do that as a business? So that's where I come in, that big question mark of where do I start? And how, and a lot of people, so people that in here, if you're in here and you're doing the transpersonal energy healing and you're learning about it and everything, you already have your service. You already know what you want to do. And that's a piece that I do at the beginning. But from that point on, it's like a big question mark. So if you already know what you want to do, that's the biggest first step. A lot of people can't decide on that. But once you know that, you can take that and then map out the path of how are you going to reach your clients? What type of clients do you want to have? Where do you want to meet them? Where do you want to, and what impact do you want to make? Part of what I go through when I coach people is, what do you want your client experience to be? And by knowing that, then we can go backwards and figure out the process that you have to do as a practitioner to make that experience exactly how you want it to be for them. And that's just one piece. And then there's other pieces in there about figuring out your finances, figuring out how much, your goal setting, how much do you want to earn? How much do you want to charge? All the little things that go into having a business that we don't really think about when we're just like, I just want to help people.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Suzy, for taking some time to share with us about your personal experience. And I want to thank you for your service to our country. My dad is a vet, my husband's a vet, and so I have a special place in my heart for Army vets especially. So thank you so much for what you've done and for sharing so authentically how challenging it is to move through that kind of trauma. That post-traumatic stress is a thing. And not many people are skilled on supporting people with that. And I know a lot of our audience, though, does. And so I so appreciate you sharing that with us, to hear the real struggles that come along with that, but also, more importantly, the power of your internal self to heal and find healing to the point where you are now actually using that experience to help heal others.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful thing, when we can step out and help others in a strength, knowing that if something comes up in the future, I know how to heal it. I know how to handle it. So trauma happens, and it could happen at any moment. But when it does happen, I have that power, which has been an amazing journey to be on.
Yeah. Well, and one of your big gifts is organization. And I know that you have a book that is a great starting place for people. And so if you'd like to share that, we'll also put the information in the comments below. But how can people find your work and share your book if you would like?
Yeah. So the workbook is a great place to start. I recommend it to anybody that is starting a business. It's a fill in the blank, so it's very step-by-step, ask specific questions, and that's available on my website. I will send everybody to my website because all of my social media and everything is on there. My website is SuzyWraines.com. So it's the spelling of my name.com. And we can share the links. But yeah, the workbook is on there. And then if you wanted to just have a conversation with me, I do a business setup free session. It's an hour, and it's all about you and your business. So if you're open to that, you can schedule that on my website as well.
Thank you so much, Suzy. I highly recommend a connection with Suzy and her book as well, to give you a starting place. So if you're not sure what to do next with your business, That's a good starting place. Suzy's book, Session with Suzy. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to connect with us, Suzy. We are going to put your information in the comment section below so that you can easily click on Suzy's website and get more information about Suzy.